on, guys? So today we're going to take a look at 15 fun and interesting facts about the NES and some of their games. The Konami code origins are in Gradius. So way back in 1985, Kazushia Hashimoto, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, was working on the arcade game of Gradius. Because he didn't want to actually play the whole game during the testing process, he developed a little shortcut that gave him a full set of power-ups, letting him live long enough to easily get to where he needed to go without dying. When the game went live in 1986, the code was still up there, so to get full power-ups, all the player had to do was enter the code up, up, down, down, left, right, BA. The trick caught on, and soon the so-called Konami code could be found in a number of arcade and video games. Most notably, it gave you 30 extra lives in Contra. So Super C uses a different code. Super C used a different code. The original Contra was famous for using the Konami code, as said previously, but for Super C, the Contra sequel, instead of using the normal code, what they got was right, left, down, up, AB start, which only gave you 10 extra lives. Balloon Fight was one of Satoru Iwata's first projects. So this was one of the first games the late great Satoru Iwata worked on at the beginning of his career with Nintendo. He later went on to become Nintendo's president and CEO, presiding over the launches of the Nintendo DS as well as the Wii. Ninja Gaiden revolutionized the concept of the cutscene. Ninja Gaiden's director, Hideo Yoshizawa, wanted the NES version of the game to have a much deeper story than the arcade version, so he implemented 20 more minutes of cinematic cutscenes. Though this is standard practice nowadays, a story told through cutscenes was revolutionary at the time. To advance in Star Tropics, you needed to have the box. So now you have to remember, picture yourself back in the 80s, there was no internet, you didn't always get a copy of Nintendo Power, so in Star Tropics, to advance the story, players were required to input a code that was attached to a letter. However, that letter didn't exist inside the game. It was physically included in the box the game came in. This obviously caused problems as players could easily lose it or wind up with a rental copy lacking the letter at all and be stuck forever, so Nintendo had to reprint the code in Nintendo Power magazine eventually to try and help confuse game players. So Bubble Bubble may seem rudimentary by today's video game standards, but it has been proven that video games can be good for your brain. Educators praise the game's ability to help kids overcome developmental challenges with its focus on problem solving, strategy, and motor skills. Who was Justin Bailey? Justin Bailey was a programmer, Justin Bailey was an inside joke, Justin Bailey was a reference to British slang for a bathing suit. If you played the NES side-scrolling shooter Metroid in the 1980s, chances are you heard of these explanations for the game's most infamous password. Entering Justin Bailey and then typing in an additional 12 blank spaces allows the player to begin the game with Samus Aran appearing in a leotard instead of her armor, while being supplied with a full arsenal of missiles. Cool password aside, we still don't know who Justin Bailey is. Some random dude just typed in his name and it worked? Ice Climber gave birth to the Super Mario Bros. So Ice Climber was the first game that Kazuaki Morita worked on. He would go on to refine the game's formula for his next title at Nintendo, Super Mario Bros., where the action moved horizontally instead of vertically. He was quoted saying everything that he learned working on Ice Climbers, he was able to piggyback to Super Mario Bros. To make a bigger, grander game. The real Mario was a landlord, not a plumber. During the development of Donkey Kong Jr., a Nintendo employee reportedly pointed out that the character looked a lot like Mario Siegel, the Italian landlord of Nintendo's US offices. Thus, Mario was born. The original lady character from Donkey Kong became Pauline at the same time to honor one of the team members' wife, Polly. The game version of Mario was originally a carpenter. In Mario's first appearance in Donkey Kong, he was portrayed as a carpenter, but after a colleague remarked that his overalls made him look more like a plumber, legendary designer Shigeru Miyamoto changed the character's occupation. This alteration also led to the game being set underground in the pipe-populated sewers of New York City. The New York Times thought Mario and Luigi were janitors. When longtime Nintendo president Hiroshi Yamauchi passed away in 2013, the New York Times ran an obituary that quoted one of its own articles from 1988, in which Mario and Luigi were incorrectly described as janitors. On September 27, 2013, 25 years after the article in question ran, the paper ran a correction. An obituary on September 20th about Yamauchi, the longtime president of Nintendo, included a quotation from a 1988 New York Times article that inaccurately described the Nintendo video game characters from Super Mario Bros. 2, Mario and Luigi, who appeared in other Nintendo games as plumbers, not janitors. 10,000 Japanese players received a gold cart of Punch-Out in 1987. So, to receive this gold cart, what you needed to do was submit a high score for NES Golf. This was the American Courses tournament. And if your high score was selected, you received one of the 10,000 gold-colored carts. Now, this wasn't Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. This was just regular Punch-Out, where the boss was the sprite swap of Mike Tyson, and his name was, of course, Mr. Dream. The Legend of Zelda's Zelda is named after Zelda Fitzgerald. So, despite being conceived in Japan, The Legend of Zelda's titular princess was named after a native Alabaman. Shigeru Miyamoto confirmed that Zelda Fitzgerald, novelist, feminist, and wife of F. Scott Fitzgerald, was the inspiration for the Hyrulean heroine Handel. And all alliteration aside, as a bonus fact, the late great Robin Williams named his daughter Zelda after Princess Zelda. The significance of Link's name. Originally, The Legend of Zelda was meant to be a game spanning universe's time periods, beginning in the canonical past and ending up in the future, with the Triforce acting as a mode of transportation between them. The series' hero, unusual moniker, was meant to symbolize his role as a link between the eras, but Nintendo's current position is that he was a link between the player and the game. And our final piece of information or interesting fact for this week was Shigeru Miyamoto was disappointed by The Legend of Zelda 2. When gaming site Kotaku asked Miyamoto if he had ever made a bad game, the designer responded that Zelda 2: The Adventures of Link didn't live up to his expectations. He's quoted as saying, "We could have done more with the Link. It would have been nice to have bigger enemies in the game, but the NES hardware just wasn't capable of doing that." And that's 15 interesting or fun facts about the Nintendo Entertainment System and its video games. So down in the comments, guys, let me know one interesting fact you know about the NES, and also let me know if you'd be interested in hearing about other consoles in the future. Till next time, guys, take care, thanks for watching, have a good week.